3 weeks ago, my daughter told me I had until Friday to clear out of my own beach house. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just smiled, nodded, and made 3 phone calls the next morning that changed everything. But let me back up. For 30 years, I lived quietly in our Galveston bungalow, the kind of place where salt air peels paint faster than you can fix it, where neighbors wave from their porches, and where the Gulf sounds like home. I never needed much. A truck that ran, a fishing rod, khaki shorts that lasted a decade. Lily saw all of it as embarrassing proof I'd peaked early and coasted down. She mistook simplicity for failure. What she didn't know, what she never bothered to ask, was that her downtown loft, those designer shopping trips, the luxury car share she treated like a birthright. All of it ran through my account. Every swipe. Every lease payment. Every bottle of wine she Instagrammed from rooftop bars. I never corrected her. I figured she'd grow out of the entitlement, learn to see past appearances. I was wrong. Lily Rivers, my only child, grew up believing the world owed her comfort. I don't blame her mother for that. Sarah died when Lily was 11, and I handled grief the only way I knew how. I worked, I provided, and I never let Lily see me break. Maybe that was the mistake. Maybe she needed to see struggle to understand value. By the time she turned 25, Lily had perfected the art of looking successful. Her Instagram showed champagne brunches, gallery openings, weekend trips to Austin. Her friends, Trevor's crowd, mostly, drove European cars and talked about curating experiences. They treated money like oxygen, invisible, infinite, and guaranteed. I met them once at a charity gala Lily dragged me to. I wore my good blazer, the one I'd owned since 2008. Trevor's business partner, a guy named Ashton with slicked hair and a Rolex thicker than a hockey puck, looked me up and down like I'd tracked mud on his marble floor. "So you're Lily's dad," he said, not quite hiding his surprise. "What do you do?" "Property management," I said. "True enough." "Ah." He nodded slowly, that patronizing tilt of the head people use when they think they've got you figured out. "That's solid work. Blue-collar backbone of America, right?" Lily laughed, not with me, at me. "Dad's very old school," she said, touching Ashton's arm. "He doesn't really get the startup world." I smiled. I finished my ginger ale. I left early. That was 2 years ago. The comments only got sharper after that. "Dad, you really need to update your look. Those cargo shorts are so 2005. Trevor says people judge you by your car. Maybe trade in the truck. Why do you still live in Galveston? It's basically a retirement town." Every critique was delivered with a laugh, like affection could sand down the edges. But I heard what she wasn't saying: "You embarrass me. You're beneath the life I want." I never fought back. I paid her bills. I kept the trust fund quiet. I figured eventually she'd mature, realize that worth isn't measured in thread count or zip codes. Then Trevor Finch proposed. I liked Trevor at first. He had that easy confidence, firm handshake, direct eye contact, the kind of guy who could sell anything to anyone. He worked in real estate development, or at least that's what his business cards claimed. Mostly he worked in renderings, glossy PDFs full of drone shots and CAD drawings, projects that always seemed 6 months from breaking ground. Lily worshipped him. She talked about his vision, his network, his exit strategy. I nodded through dinners while Trevor explained cap rates and IRR like I was a child learning fractions. "Sir, the Gulf Coast is about to explode," he told me once, leaning across the table at a steakhouse I couldn't afford if I actually paid my own way. "Smart money is moving in. We're talking 8, maybe 10% annual appreciation. If you ever want to discuss repositioning your assets, I know people." "I'll keep that in mind," I said. What I didn't say, I've owned beachfront property since before you could spell mortgage, kid. The engagement happened fast. Trevor proposed at sunset on Galveston Beach, my beach. Technically, though he didn't know that, with a ring that cost more than most people's cars. Lily posted 40 photos. The comments rolled in, goals. Perfect. You deserve this. 3 weeks later, they showed up at my bungalow unannounced. I was on the deck replacing warped boards when I heard car doors slam. Lily came around the side gate first, stepping carefully in heels too expensive for sand. Trevor followed, carrying a leather portfolio like he was closing a merger. Hey, Dad. Lily kissed my cheek. We need to talk. I set down my hammer. About? About the future. She glanced at Trevor, who nodded encouragement. Trevor and I have been thinking, this house has so much potential. The bones are great, the location is incredible, but it needs work. Real work. And honestly, Dad, you're not getting any younger. I'm 53, I said. Exactly. She pulled out her phone, swiping to a photo. Look, we had an architect mock up some ideas. If we knock out this wall, open up the sight lines, extend the deck, add a second story, this place could be worth triple. Trevor unrolled blueprints on the patio table. Sir, with all respect, you're sitting on a gold mine. Galveston's market is heating up. Young professionals want turnkey beach access. We modernize this property, we're looking at a 7-figure asset. We? I said. Lily's smile tightened. Dad, let's be realistic. You've lived simply your whole life. You don't need this much space. We're thinking, Trevor and I could take over the house, do the renovations, and help you find something smaller. Something easier to maintain. Maybe one of those nice senior communities near Clear Lake. They have shuffleboard. I looked at Trevor. Trevor looked at his blueprints. When? I asked. When what? When do you need me out? Lily relaxed. Oh, Dad, I'm so glad you're being reasonable. We were thinking Friday. That gives you 4 days. Totally doable. We've already lined up contractors for Monday. I nodded slowly. Friday. Yes. Trevor's financing comes through Thursday, and we want to hit the ground running. You understand? I understood perfectly. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the deck listening to waves and thinking about Sarah. She would have handled this better. She would have known the right words, the right balance of love and boundary. I just felt tired. At 6 a.m., I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Martin Kowalski, the attorney who'd set up the family trust after Sarah died. The second was to Patricia Ng, the independent trustee Martin recommended years ago when I wanted someone neutral managing the documents. The third was to my bank. By noon, everything was in motion. I didn't tell Lily. I didn't warn Trevor. I just waited. Thursday morning, my phone started ringing. Thursday morning I woke up to 17 missed calls and a string of texts that started confused and ended furious. The first message came from Lily at 6:43 a.m. Dad, call me. Something's wrong with my door lock. Then at 7:02, the property manager says I don't have access anymore. This has to be a mistake. By 7:30 the tone shifted. What did you do? I made coffee. Sat on my deck. Watched a pelican dive for breakfast. My phone buzzed again. Trevor this time. Sir, we need to talk. There's been some kind of error with the title on the beach house. Our attorney can't find your name on the deed. I took a sip. The gulf was calm. Smooth as glass. Another text from Lily, Dad, I'm serious. I can't get into my apartment and nobody will tell me why. Call me. I didn't call. Instead, I let Barbara Cho's work speak for itself. Here's what Lily never knew: the beach house was never in my name. Not technically. 15 years ago, when her mother passed and left me with a 7-figure insurance settlement, a paid-off property, and a teenage daughter to raise alone, I did the smart thing. I set up a family trust. The Galveston bungalow went into it. So did the downtown loft I bought for Lily when she turned 25, the one she thought she'd earned through sheer talent and charm. Both properties were held by the Rivers Family Trust, managed by me as primary trustee, with Lily listed as the sole beneficiary upon my death or at my discretion. But Barbara had included a clause. A specific, ironclad provision buried in Section 7, Paragraph 4, Subsection C. It read, "Beneficiary privileges shall be immediately suspended in the event of public humiliation, coercion, or material disrespect directed toward any acting trustee, as determined by said trustee's sole discretion. Upon suspension, an independent trustee shall assume control until such time as amends are made to the satisfaction of the injured party, or indefinitely, at trustee discretion." I'd signed it without thinking much about it. Barbara insisted. "You never know," she'd said. "People get weird around money. Even family." She was right. Tuesday night, after Lily and Trevor left, I called Barbara and invoked the clause. I walked her through the entire conversation. The sketches. The timeline. The senior community suggestion. The fact that my own daughter had given me 5 days to vacate a house she didn't own so she could renovate it without my permission. Barbara didn't even hesitate. "That qualifies. I'll have the paperwork filed by morning." What happens next? An independent trustee takes over. I've got a retired judge who handles these situations. He's not sentimental, and he doesn't negotiate. Lily's access to both properties gets suspended immediately. No keys. No entry. No legal claim until the terms are satisfied. And the terms? Whatever you decide. Could be an apology. Could be repayment of funds. Could be never. Your call. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. Do it. By Wednesday afternoon, the locks on Lily's loft had been changed by court order. Her key card stopped working. The doorman had instructions not to let her up. A formal notice was taped to the door explaining that her residency had been suspended pending trust review. The beach house never needed new locks because Lily never had keys to begin with. She'd always just knocked and walked in. She'd assumed it was hers to enter. She'd assumed a lot of things. Thursday afternoon she showed up in person. I heard the car before I saw it. Tires on gravel. A door slamming. Footsteps on the porch, fast and hard. She didn't knock. She tried the door, found it locked, then pounded with her fist. "Dad! Open the door." I stayed in my chair. Didn't move. "I know you're in there. Open up." I took another sip of coffee. This is insane. You can't just lock me out of my own apartment. I have rights. That word. Rights. I set my mug down and walked to the door. Opened it slowly. Lily stood on my porch in yesterday's clothes, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked tired. Angry. Confused. "What the hell is happening?" she said. "You're locked out," I said calmly. "I know I'm locked out." "Why? What did you do?" "I enforced the terms of the trust." She blinked. "What trust?" "The family trust. The one that owns this house. And your loft." Her face went pale. "My loft?" "Not your loft. The trust's loft. You were a beneficiary with privileges. Those privileges have been suspended." "Suspended?" "You can't just, Dad, that's my home." It was a home you lived in rent-free while you told me to vacate mine by Friday. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Her eyes darted, searching for an angle. That's not, we were trying to help you. By kicking me out? By giving you an easier life. I liked my life. In this old house? Dad, be serious. I am serious. This old house is mine. Or rather, it's held in trust for your benefit someday. But someday isn't now. And it sure as hell isn't Friday. Trevor's car pulled up behind hers. He got out fast, phone in hand, looking rattled. "Sir, we need to talk," he called, walking toward the porch. "I just got off with our attorney. He says there's a problem with the bridge loan. The lender's flagging the valuation on this property. They're saying it doesn't match what we submitted." I leaned against the doorframe. "What did you submit?" "Market comps. Projected value post-renovation. Standard stuff." "Based on what?" "Based on," he stopped. Looked at Lily. Back at me. "Based on the assumption that the property would be transferred." The property was never going to be transferred. His face changed. The confidence drained out. "But Lily said." "Lily doesn't own it. She never did. But the renovation plans, the contractor deposits, we already put down $20,000. I didn't respond. Trevor's phone rang. He looked at the screen, didn't answer. It rang again. "That's the lender," he said quietly. "You should probably take that." He walked back to his car, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand running through his hair. Lily stared at me. "Dad. Please. This is my life. Our life. We planned everything around this. You planned everything around something that wasn't yours. I'm your daughter. I know. So help me. Fix this." I looked at her. Really looked. The same eyes her mother had. The same stubborn tilt to her chin. "You told me to be out by Friday," I said. "Because a young couple needs this more than I do. You called me outdated. You made renovation plans without asking. You didn't see a father. You saw an obstacle." Her eyes filled. "I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." She stood there, tears running down her face, and for the first time in years, I saw something other than entitlement. I saw fear. "What do I do?" she whispered. "You figure it out." I stepped back inside and closed the door. The calls didn't stop for 3 days. Lily. Trevor. A lawyer whose name I didn't recognize. Then Lily again. Then Trevor's mother, who left a voicemail explaining that her son was under extraordinary stress and asking if we could find a reasonable solution. I deleted every message without listening all the way through. Friday came and went. The day I was supposed to be gone. I spent it replacing the boards on my deck that had started to splinter. Sanded them smooth. Applied a fresh coat of sealant. The work felt good. Solid. Real. Saturday morning I got an email from Barbara Cho with 2 attachments. The first was a formal notice from the independent trustee, Judge Raymond Howell, retired from the Texas Probate Court, confirming that beneficiary privileges had been suspended indefinitely pending resolution. Lily's access to both properties was revoked. Any attempt to enter either location would be considered trespassing. The second attachment was a scanned letter from Trevor's lender. I opened it. "Dear Mr. Finch, after secondary review of submitted valuations and ownership documentation for the property located at 1847 Shoreline Drive, Galveston, Texas, we regret to inform you that your bridge loan application has been denied. Our underwriting team identified material discrepancies between projected asset transfer and verified title records. Additionally, the declared post-renovation valuation of $1.8 million reflects speculative assessment inconsistent with comparable sales data and current property condition. As the collateral for this loan does not meet our lending criteria, we are withdrawing our preliminary approval effective immediately. Any deposits or fees submitted in anticipation of funding are non-refundable per the terms outlined in Section 9 of your application agreement. I read it twice. Trevor had borrowed against a house he didn't own, using inflated numbers for a renovation that was never going to happen, and somehow convinced a lender to take him seriously long enough to spend $20,000 he didn't have. The whole thing was built on air. I forwarded the email to Barbara with a single line, "Did he really think this would work?" She replied within an hour, "Arrogance makes people sloppy. He assumed you'd roll over." She wasn't wrong. By the second week, the texts from Lily changed tone. No more anger. No more demands. Just, "Dad, I don't know what to do." Then, "Trevor's gone. He moved back to Austin. Said this was too much." Then, a day later, "I'm staying with a friend. I don't know for how long." I didn't respond. I wasn't punishing her out of cruelty. I was letting consequences do the teaching I'd failed to do for years. 3 weeks later, I got a handwritten letter. It came in a plain envelope with a Galveston postmark, which surprised me. I opened it standing in my kitchen, the same table where she'd unrolled those renovation sketches still covered in my morning newspaper and a half-finished crossword. The handwriting was hers, but Messier. Rushed. "Dad. I'm writing this from a rented room near the College of the Mainland campus. It's small. The bathroom's down the hall. There's no AC, just a box fan. I'm working graveyard shifts at the 24-hour diner off FM 517. 4 nights a week, sometimes 5 if someone calls in sick. I've never worked graveyard before. I've never worked at a diner, period. I don't know how to keep up with orders during a rush. I burned myself twice on the grill this week. My feet hurt all the time. I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm writing because I finally understand what you were trying to show me. I couldn't budget. I didn't know how. Every month, money just appeared, and I spent it. I never asked where it came from. I assumed I'd earned it somehow, or that it was just the way things worked for people like me. I thought being your daughter meant I was owed a certain kind of life. I can't cook. Not really. I can make pasta and eggs, but I didn't know how much groceries actually cost until I had to buy them myself. I spent $60 my first trip and came home with 3 bags. It's not enough for a week. I don't know how people do this. I can't solve problems without other people's money. Trevor had plans, and I believed them because they sounded good and I didn't have to do the work. When it all fell apart, I didn't have a backup. I didn't even have a resume that made sense. I've been in marketing for 6 years and I can't point to a single thing I built on my own. I'm not asking for the loft back. I'm not asking you to fix this. I'm asking if there's a chance, maybe not now, maybe not soon, that you'd be willing to let me try again. Not as someone who deserves your help. As someone who's finally willing to earn it. I don't expect you to answer right away. Or at all. But I needed you to know I'm not the same person who told you to leave by Friday. I'm trying not to be. Lily. I read it 3 times. Then I set it on the counter and stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to crumple it up. To let her sit in that rented room and work that diner job until the lesson really sank in. Maybe for a year. Maybe longer. But another part of me, the part that remembered teaching her to ride a bike on this same street, the part that stayed up with her when she had nightmares after her mother died, that part knew something had shifted. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't making excuses. She was naming the problem. That mattered. I didn't write back. Not yet. Instead, I made a decision I'd been avoiding for weeks. I called a realtor in Rockport, a small town 40 miles up the coast. Quieter than Galveston. Less traffic. Fewer tourists. I'd been looking at a cedar cottage there for a while, nothing fancy, but it had a porch that faced the bay and enough space for the things that mattered. I made an offer. It was accepted 2 days later. I didn't need the beach house anymore. I'd raised my daughter here. I'd mourned my wife here. I'd spent 30 years letting the salt air and the sound of waves hold me together. But it was time to let it go. Not to Lily. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I didn't need to stay just to prove a point. The independent trustee would keep control. The properties would stay in trust. Lily would have no access until she proved, really proved, that she understood what she'd lost and why. And if that day came, Judge Howell would let me know. Until then, I had a cottage to move into and a life to simplify even further. I packed my truck over the next 2 weeks. Books. Fishing gear. My father's old tackle box. A framed photo of my wife holding newborn Lily on this very porch. The day I left, I stood on the deck one last time. The Gulf rolled in, steady and indifferent. The same as it had been for 30 years. The same as it would be for 30 more. I locked the door behind me and drove north. The cedar cottage in Rockport sat on a half-acre lot 2 blocks from the bay. No beach access. No tourist traffic. Just a gravel driveway, a screened porch, and a live oak older than me providing shade over half the yard. It was exactly what I needed. I moved in on a Tuesday. Took me 3 trips with the truck to haul everything from Galveston. I didn't hire movers. Didn't ask for help. Just carried boxes, assembled my bed frame, and hung the picture of my wife and newborn Lily above the fireplace mantel. By Friday the cottage felt like mine. I set up a simple routine. Coffee on the porch at dawn. Afternoon spent fixing things that didn't need fixing, tightening loose railings, replacing weather stripping, patching a section of fence that had rotted through. Evenings I'd drive down to the public pier and fish until the light faded. Nobody knew me here. Nobody asked questions. It was quiet in a way Galveston never had been, and I realized that's what I'd been missing for years. I thought about Lily's letter every day. Some mornings I'd reread it, looking for signs of manipulation. Testing her words against the daughter I knew, the one who'd smirked when her friends called me outdated, who'd handed me renovation sketches like eviction papers, who'd assumed everything I owned was eventually hers to claim. But the letter didn't sound like that person. It sounded tired. Honest. Small. Still, I didn't respond. 6 weeks after I moved, Barbara Cho called. "Just wanted to update you," she said. "Judge Howell did a quarterly review of the trust status. Lily hasn't attempted to access either property. No legal challenges. No complaints filed. She's staying clean." "Where is she?" "Still in Galveston, as far as we can tell. Same address on record. Still working." "The diner?" "Presumably. Judge Howell doesn't track employment, just compliance." I thanked her and hung up. That evening I drove into Galveston. I didn't plan it. I just got in the truck and pointed it south. An hour later I was parked 2 blocks from the Coastal Diner off FM 517, a squat building with yellow siding and a neon sign that buzzed in the dark. I sat in the truck for 20 minutes, watching the windows. Then I saw her. Lily moved through the diner in a white button-up shirt and black apron, hair tied back, carrying a coffee pot in one hand and a tray of plates in the other. She refilled a trucker's mug, cleared a booth, wiped down a table. Her movements were efficient but not smooth. She was still learning. I watched her take an order from a couple in the corner. She wrote it down carefully, nodding as they spoke, then hurried back to the kitchen. A minute later she returned with silverware she'd forgotten the first time. She looked nothing like the woman who'd arrived at my house with a leather portfolio and a 5-day eviction notice. She looked like someone trying. I sat there until my coffee went cold. Then I drove back to Rockport without going inside. 2 weeks later, I made a decision. I didn't call Lily. I didn't write. Instead, I sent a message through Barbara, "Tell Judge Howell I want a meeting." Neutral location. Her choice of day. Barbara called back within an hour. "He'll arrange it." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "What are you offering?" "Nothing yet. I just want to talk." The meeting was set for the following Saturday at a Tex-Mex place halfway between Rockport and Galveston, Los Amigos, a no-frills joint with plastic chairs, laminated menus, and a salsa bar that hadn't changed since 1987. I got there early. Ordered water. Sat in a booth near the back. Lily arrived 10 minutes later. She walked in wearing jeans and a plain gray t-shirt, no jewelry, hair still damp like she'd just showered after a shift. She looked thinner. Older. She spotted me and hesitated, just for a second, then walked over. "Hi, Dad." "Lily." She slid into the booth across from me. Hands folded on the table. No phone. No purse. Just her. We sat in silence for a moment. A waitress came by. We both ordered iced tea and said we needed a minute with the menu. When she left, Lily spoke first. "I wasn't sure you'd actually show up." "I wasn't sure either." She nodded. Looked down. "Thank you for coming. I got your letter. I didn't know if you'd read it." "I did. More than once." Her eyes met mine. Red-rimmed. Tired. "Did you believe it?" I leaned back. I wanted to. But words are easy. I needed to see if anything changed. "And?" "I drove by the diner a few weeks ago. Watched you work." She blinked. "You were there?" "In the parking lot." "Didn't come in." "Why not?" "Because I wasn't ready to have this conversation yet." She absorbed that. Nodded slowly. "Are you ready now?" "I don't know. But I figured it was time to find out." The waitress returned. We ordered, tacos for me, enchiladas for her, and when the food came, neither of us touched it right away. "How's Trevor?" I asked. Lily's jaw tightened. "Gone. Moved back to Austin the week everything fell apart. Blocked my number. I heard through a mutual friend he's working for his uncle's property management company. He tells people the Galveston deal didn't align with his long-term vision." "And you?" "I'm working 50-hour weeks at $8.50 an hour plus tips. I'm renting a room with no lease because I can't pass a credit check. I eat ramen 4 nights a week because I'm trying to save $600 for a deposit on an actual apartment." She said it without self-pity. "Just facts." "I'm not asking you to fix any of that," she added. "I know I have to do this part myself." "Why?" She looked confused. "Why what? Why do you have to do it yourself?" Because that's the point, isn't it?" I screwed up. I took everything for granted. I need to prove I can stand on my own. I picked up a taco. Took a bite. Let her words settle. "You're right," I said finally. "You do need to prove that. But not because I'm testing you. Because you need to know you can." "I'm starting to," she said quietly. "It's harder than I thought. Everything costs more, takes longer, matters more than I realized. But I'm learning." "What did you learn?" She thought about it. "That nobody owes me anything. That respect isn't automatic. That the life I had wasn't mine, it was borrowed. And that I didn't just take you for granted. I erased you. Her voice cracked on the last word. I made you invisible, she continued. I saw the house, the money, the things, but I didn't see you. I didn't ask how you were. I didn't say thank you. I didn't treat you like a person. Just a resource. I set the taco down. And now? I asked. Now I'm trying to see people. Really see them. My roommate works 2 jobs and still makes time to check if I've eaten. The cook at the diner, Ramon, taught me how to flip eggs without breaking the yolk because he didn't want me to feel stupid. The regulars who tip an extra $1 because they know I'm new. She wiped her eyes. I didn't know how much I didn't know, Dad. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I reached across the table. She looked at my hand like she didn't trust it. I'm not fixing this for you, I said. But I'm not disappearing either. She took my hand. Held on tight. What does that mean? She whispered. It means we start here. We pay our own tabs. We talk like adults. And we see what happens. She nodded, tears running down her face. For the first time in years, I felt like her father again. Not her banker. Not her obstacle. Her father. We sat in that Tex-Mex place for 2 hours. The food went cold while we talked. Real talk. The kind we hadn't had since she was a teenager, before her mother died, before money became the language we used instead of honesty. Lily told me about the graveyard shifts. How the first week she cried in the walk-in freezer because a customer yelled at her for forgetting his side of ranch. How Ramon, the cook, found her and didn't say anything, just handed her a clean towel and got back to work. How she learned that silence could be kinder than advice. She told me about her roommate, a nursing student named Maria who studied between shifts at a grocery store and still found time to leave post-it notes on the bathroom mirror. Little things. You got this. Don't forget to eat. Bad days don't last. I never had friends like that before, Lily said. Everyone I knew in my old life, they weren't friends. They were accessories. People who looked good in photos, who knew the right restaurants, who validated the version of myself I wanted to believe in. And Trevor? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Trevor was the same. He didn't love me. He loved what he thought I represented. Access. Status. A beach house he could flip. When that disappeared, so did he. Did you love him? She stared at her untouched enchiladas. I don't think I knew what love was. I thought it was someone who made me feel important. Someone who had plans that sounded impressive. But that's not love. That's just 2 people using each other and calling it a relationship. I nodded. Didn't argue. She needed to say it out loud. What about now? I asked. What do you want? Honestly? I want to stop feeling like I'm drowning. I want to pay my own rent without panicking. I want to learn how to cook something other than eggs and pasta. I want to wake up and not hate myself for all the years I wasted. That's a start. Is it enough? I pushed my plate aside. Leaned forward. Lily, I didn't meet you here to tell you what's enough. That's something you have to decide. But I'll tell you this, what you're doing right now, working that diner job, living in that rented room, figuring out how to survive without a safety net? That matters more than any apology you could write. But the trust. The trust stays as it is. Her face fell. Not in anger. In resignation. I understand, she said quietly. I'm not finished. She looked up. The trust stays as it is, I repeated, because you're not ready. Not because you haven't apologized. Not because I'm punishing you. But because if I gave you access tomorrow, you'd be right back where you started. Comfortable. Complacent. Convinced you'd earned something you didn't. So what do I do? You keep doing what you're doing. You work. You save. You learn to stand on your own. And when you've built a life that doesn't depend on me, when you've proven to yourself, not to me, that you can make it without the trust, then we'll talk. How long will that take? I don't know. A year. 2. Maybe more. She swallowed hard. And if I can't do it? Then you can't. But I don't think that's how this ends. Why not? Because the woman who wrote me that letter isn't the same one who handed me renovation sketches. And the woman sitting across from me right now isn't the same one who told me to be gone by Friday. You're changing. I can see it. Her eyes filled again. I don't feel like I'm changing. I feel like I'm barely surviving. That's what change feels like. We sat in silence for a while. The restaurant had emptied out. The waitress hovered near the kitchen, polite but clearly ready for us to leave. I pulled out my wallet. Lily reached for hers. Separate checks, I told the waitress. Lily blinked. Dad, you don't have to. I know. But we're paying our own way. That was the deal. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. We paid. Left tips. Walked out into the parking lot together. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. Humid Texas air settled around us, thick and familiar. Where are you parked? I asked. I took the bus. There's a stop 2 blocks that way. I'll give you a ride. You don't have to. I know. She didn't argue. We drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. She stared out the window, watching strip malls and gas stations blur past. I saw the cottage, she said suddenly. I glanced over. What? Your new place. In Rockport. I drove by a few weeks ago. I didn't stop. I just wanted to see where you were. How'd you find it? I called Barbara's office. Her assistant wouldn't give me the address, but she accidentally said Rockport before she caught herself. I looked up property records. I almost smiled. Did you like it? It's smaller than the beach house. Yeah. Quieter. Yeah. It suits you. I didn't respond. Just drove. Dad? Yeah. Do you think? I mean, eventually, could I visit sometime? Not to ask for anything. Just to see you. I pulled up to her apartment building, a 2-story complex with peeling paint and a busted gate. She unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't move to get out. When you're ready, I said. When you've got a lease in your own name, a savings account with more than $100, and a week where you didn't have to decide between groceries and rent, then yeah. You can visit. That's going to take a while. I know. She nodded. Opened the door. Stepped out. Then she leaned back in. Thank you for today. You're welcome. I mean it. I know I don't deserve. Lily. She stopped. Stop talking about what you deserve. Start talking about what you're building. She stared at me. Then nodded. Okay. She closed the door and walked toward her building. I watched her unlock the security gate, slip inside, and disappear up the stairs. I sat there for a few minutes. Then I drove home. The months that followed were quiet. I settled into Rockport. Fixed up the cottage. Learned the rhythms of the bay, the tides, the bird migrations, the summer storms that blew in fast and left everything smelling like rain and salt. I didn't hear from Lily directly, but Barbara sent updates every few weeks. She'd opened a checking account. Started a savings account. Picked up a second part-time job doing social media for a local boutique, 10 hours a week, but it was in her field, and she was building a real portfolio. She moved into a studio apartment. Signed a lease. Her name only. She took a financial literacy class at the community college. She stopped asking about the trust. A year passed. Then one Saturday morning my phone rang. Lily's number. I answered. Dad? Hey. I know we said I'd wait until I was ready, but I hit a milestone. And I wanted to tell you. What's the milestone? I paid off my credit card. The whole balance. It took me 14 months, but it's done. I smiled. That's good, Lily. Really good. And I have $1,200 in savings. It's not a lot, but it's mine. I earned it. I'm proud of you. There was a pause. Then, quietly, can I come visit? I looked out at the bay. The water was still. The live oak swayed in the breeze. Yeah, I said. You can come visit. When? Whenever you want. She exhaled. Relief. Maybe joy. How about next Sunday? I have the day off. Sunday works. Should I bring anything? Just yourself. Okay. I'll see you then. See you then. I hung up. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I'd made the right move. Not as someone who controlled the money. As her father. Exactly the lesson she needed. And the dignity I could live with.